This is the longer Ray 5. This was my very first laser I got a couple years ago. It was a 5 watt when I got it, and this thing just worked. I mean, it worked flawlessly. Never had any issues with it. But then I wanted to get bigger, more powerful. 5 watt lasers really can't cut anything. They're made just for engraving. And now I did a beautiful job of engraving, very fine in detail. But then once I started upgrading to different lasers, I kept thinking, even though these I did them that have linear rails and all kinds of stuff that cost multiple thousands of dollars, but I just always remembered this Ray 5. I never had a single problem with it. I gave it to my brother-in-law, and he used this thing for a long time. Then he gave it to my niece, and she used it. Well, now they've came out with this new 30 watt upgrade module. So I got this back from my niece, and this thing is still working just fantastic. Now with this new 30 watt module, this doesn't have all the bells and whistles. This machine just works. Let's go over some of the features with it and let me show you what it can do. All right, well, what is the difference between the 5 and the 30 watt? I mean, why spend the extra money? Well, this is on the 5 watt. So before I did the upgrade, and this is the number of passes, and this is the speed at millimeters a second. So at 2 millimeters a second, it took 2 passes to get through, and then you see how it's burnt, which is, I mean, that's good for a 5 watt. A 5 watt's not made to really, cut stuff. Well, I ran that same one at the 30 watt. I actually stopped it because at the 20 millimeters a second, at 2 passes, it was all the way through, and almost the exact opposite of this. At over here at 20 millimeters a second, it took 10 passes to get through instead of 2. So I stopped it because if it's making it through here, then everything else was just going to be cut through and end up catching it on fire and burning it. Now I also did a burn. So this was the 5 watt burn. Now I did the same burn with the 30 watt, and you can see here. Now the big difference is on this one right here, we're down to about right here, about 175 before I can really feel it. This is all on the surface before it starts digging in here. Now in this one, at the very top, at the 300, I can feel it. It's actually burnt in and is in depth. And then down here, I mean, it's pretty good ways through. However, this test is a little bit deceptive because, I mean, while certainly there is a difference, it doesn't really look like a huge difference. So with lasers, if you're not familiar, you've got acceleration and you got jerk, and so and you got overscan. There's a lot of other variables. So even though you may set this at a speed, it doesn't always get up to that full speed, or the laser will be ramped down. So if it's not able to get up to the full speed, if it's running half of whatever the speed was while it's speeding up, the laser is going to burn at half power, so to make it smoothen out. So I clicked the button to do a constant, and that way, whenever I said 10% or 100%, it was constant. And this was the engrave. And like I said, the only thing I did different on this here, this is way here, was I clicked the constant button. So at the 300 up here, at what's this about 30%, it was burning in pretty good. And by the time we got it here to 40%, it was already coming through the back. So definitely a lot more power. Now, had I blowed this up and did a much larger material test and did like 20 by 20 squares, I probably would have let the machine get up to full speed and would have really shown off the potential of the machine. I mean, we're running a high power machine and we're trying to do smaller, minute stuff. So I went ahead and got some slate here, and I just did the same exact settings. Went from 75 up to 300 millimeters a second. And as you see right up in here, we've got at about 150 millimeters a second, down to about 50, 60, 70% power. We were doing really good burns. I went ahead and made it a little bit smaller here on the acrylic so you can see this. But again, I mean, heck, down here at this 40% power at 100, we were burning pretty good. But we could run this at 300 at 100% power and do some good engraving here on our black acrylic. I did a cut test on the black acrylic, and I just did one pass, and basically, it wanted to do about 5 millimeters a second is where this kind of cut through at 10 it didn't. I was getting my range. If I was going to be doing a lot of cutting, I would run this test and go now from 5 to 10, and that way I would get the exact speed. But I went ahead and we did the same thing that we did before. This here is the glass, and this is 20 to 100, 50 to 150. So I would say right up in here, we are looking at about 80 to 60% power at about 100 to 175 millimeters a second. Got some real nice engravings there. So did terrific on the glass. Did the same thing again here with the iodized metal, and once again we're running about 175 to 200 up in here, and we are getting real good burns, very clean. As you see, we go too slow, we're getting too much power and actually burning through the metal, but really good. We're able to almost run this machine at full speed. So I did try some stainless steel. All I had was a dog bowl here, and I used the same exact settings as on the other. Our 100, let's see, where's our speed? Okay, so at about 100 is where I guess it probably came out the best. We're 80, 90, 100 right up in here at about 100, 125, maybe, probably more around 175 to 100 millimeters a second. And now I left the outside just to see what it would do, and this was running at 5 millimeters a second, to cut out. I ran the same as I would on the wood, but I mean, it feels like a weld around here. So, and you can see where it came through on the inside, and I can feel it. It's like it almost had burned it all the way through. There is definitely a line there. I did have the air assist on, but it feels almost like it, because I can feel it on the inside where it melted through on the laser, and then the metal cooled down and stuck back to where it was. So it did not cut all the way through, but this is a pretty thick, this isn't a real thin bowl there. And again, I didn't change it down. I was running at the 5 millimeters a second. Now, if you've watched any of my other reviews, I always run the same image, and the reason I do that is because these hairs, you can get some real fine detail. However, on this one, I don't know if it's going to show on the camera as well, but this thing has got some deep relief. And all I did was import this as a PNG into a light burn, and I set it at the max speed, 300 millimeters a second, 100% power, and hit burn. It was automatically as an image, and it used the dither pattern. And once again, you can definitely see the fine detail. Now, just because I have them to put side by side, these little lines and stuff up in here and the little hairs. I can slightly see a little bit finer detail with the 5-watt laser over the 30-watt. However, with the 30-watt, I can run it much faster, and the image quality is absolutely fine. And this is, again, without me doing any type of editing on it. I just loaded it up and hit print. So you can tweak with the settings a little bit and could actually get this even better. But as it is, I think that would have been a good image. Maybe cut the power down to 80% and not have it quite as dark up in here. But other than that, absolutely fantastic for just testing the machine and seeing what it can do. Now this is why you get a 30-watt laser. 5 watts are always going to have a smaller dot than your higher wattage diodes and can do a very fine image. It just takes forever. When you get up to the higher wattage, you can run them super fast, or in this case, you can cut thick wood. Yeah, I could barely get through that little 1/8 inch piece of plywood with the 5-watt. I had to run 2 passes to get through with the 5-watt. Whereas here, this little board starts out at 16 millimeters thick, and it's about 1.5 millimeters on each step, so it gets thicker and thicker. What I did was I routed out underneath so that I could have different thicknesses, but I could focus on the top, and that way all the boards would be focused properly. And now this goes up to right at 1 inch, 24 millimeters, and it made it all the way through. It was 22 millimeters, absolutely no problem. I'm just running 1 millimeter a second. I don't go any slower than that. If you're running millimeters a minute, that's still going to be 60 millimeters a minute. I know some lasers have that said run like 30 millimeters a minute. I don't go that slow. I would run multiple passes, and I could run multiple passes with this and cut thicker, but right now by running 1 pass, I was able to cut just shy of 1 inch. And now this is a poplar board here, so it is a hardwood. It's one of the softer hardwoods, but it has a very uniform grain, so it cuts really good. Now the 24 millimeter, which is the 1 inch thick at the very end, for some reason it cut it about 3/4 of the way absolutely perfect, and then the very end of it, it did not completely cut it off. So I'm not 100% sure why it stopped at that end, but I figured 1 inch poplar on a 30-watt laser, that is better than you're going to get on pretty much any other laser. One thing I really like about this particular laser over a lot of other lasers is that it has this touch screen on it. And with the touch screen, you're able to come over here and control your laser. You can have it home, and it's going to come and do the homing. You can move it around. But for me, the most important thing is that I can come over here and I can put in a little SD card. Now it would be nice if this was a USB stick that it would let you put in, but I can put in this USB card, and then I can come over here to engrave, and I can select the files that I have on the USB card. I can set where I want this to print at, and then I can come over here and it'll ask me how many times I want to do it, if I want to do multiple of it, and it'll go over there and start running our whatever it was on that file there. So I do not have to have a computer to run the machine. Absolutely love that feature. Also, you come over here on the tools, you got Wi-Fi. You can select the Wi-Fi, and it will pick up your Wi-Fi network, and then you can use that IP address and log straight into this and send files and start print jobs from your laptop or your phone. Once you get the IP address, you just put it right up in here into your address bar, and we hit enter, and that is going to log us right into the laser. If we click on the SD file, it's pulling up what is actually we've already got on that SD file. If we want it to go ahead and start this burn, we come down here to the bottom and hit play. We can frame the laser. We can upload files from our laptop here and go straight into the laser. See, now it just popped right up there. Where'd it go? So, we can load files onto the laser. And now once we load them on here, which we can hit play from right here, and the machine will work, but we can come back later and we do not have to connect with the laptop, because now those files are on the SD card that's on the machine, and we can run them right off the machine without having to have a laptop connected. Now, I personally run this with Lightburn, and I've got the Lightburn. I've got, you can come over here to my lasers, and we got the longer, and this thing connects in and runs terrific with Lightburn. Now, one thing I did do is I went over here to my machine settings, because I believe that on Longer's website, it says that it can run 10,000 millimeters a minute. Now, I don't know if I've got one of the older boards, because this one is older, but mine was set. When you come over here to your output, it tells you, be careful, don't mess with this because you can screw it up, but we know what we're doing. So, but when I came in here, mine was set at 6,000, and that was my max speed. Now, I have raised my max speed up to 18,000, and I have not had any issues with quality, so now the machine is running much faster. All right, so if you don't have Lightburn, and you can just come over here, open up your web browser, put in your IP address, log back into the ESP32. Once it gets logged in here, down at the bottom, you have right here is your $110 and $111. You can check those, and if they are like 6,000, all you have to do is come down here to the command, put in the $, like 110, and equal sign. And if I think the factory on mine was 6,000, so I hit OK. Well, now if I back out and then we'll back in, we'll go in and check it, and we will see that that will have updated on the computer. And see, 110. See, now our 110 is at 6,000 here. And that's all you have to do in order to change your max speed. I don't really want to say, let's get into the negative, but let's get into the real, my old pickup truck, it doesn't have all the big fancy touch screens and stuff. I have to have my cell phone up there for navigation and things, but I bought it brand new in 2006, and I'm still driving it over 330,000 miles, when I got friends that bought brand new trucks. They've done gone through 2 or 3 of them, and their trucks have been in and out of the shop, with all these new fancy gadgets. I've had multi-$1,000 lasers, and I'm on the forums with them, and people are having them, tear up within months of getting them. Sometimes all that new fancy stuff can be nice, but the more of that kind of stuff you have, the more it can, not function properly. This thing here, it's got a USB-A connection. This is the old printer cable. Some of y'all probably never even had one of these old printers that took the USB-A cable. Old technology, but it still works, tried and true. It takes a little SD card. You get a little SD adapter, and you can plug it into your laptop or desktop if you don't have the card reader on your machine, or you can just upload it through the internet. It would have been nice if it had a USB, input there. But again, this is kind of like the old technology, but this is the old bulletproof technology, that just works. This machine has been around. We've had it for a couple years now. It's gone through 3 different people, and it's still functioning just as good as the day I got it. You know, it does not have where you can turn the air pump on and off, you know, through the software. You have to actually reach over there and turn your air pump on and off. However, the 30-watt laser head does have the built-in air assist. It's got the holder for the hose, and it's got real good air assist. I don't want to say I hate it, but turn it on, it is loud. I mean, there's no two ways about it. It's loud. It's no louder than some of my other big 30, 40 watt lasers. However, most of them will turn off when it's not working. After it's been on for a few minutes and the temperature went down, this thing runs. If the power switch is on, that fan runs. That's going to keep that laser module cool, which is going to make that laser module last a lot longer, and it's going to give you a lot more use out of this. So no, this isn't the fancy, you know, class 1 laser with all the bells and whistles built into it, but this is going to be your little tank that's going to just run and run and run. And at the price, I mean, it's just ridiculous that for the price that you can get, you can have this thing equipped out to be bigger than any other laser. So if you're doing big projects with that powerful laser head on it, you know, pretty much any project that a diode laser can do, this is going to be able to do it. This is going to be able to do more things than probably 75% of the diode lasers on the market can today. When I say you're not going to find a better value than this, so we're looking at $199 for the basic 5-watt laser. Now, you go ahead, add that to your cart. Then we come over here and we're going to add that 30-watt module. It's $549. That's going to be a really good price, but you know, you're looking at $709 for a 30-watt laser. Well, you may be able to find another laser close to that price. I don't know. That's a pretty good price right there. But here, for $160, we can add in this extension kit that gives us 850 by 850. Now, with the 30-watt head, it's a little bit larger, so it's probably going to be about, I think it's 835 or something like that. Not quite 850, but you're not going to find a 30-watt laser that has a 800 by 800 area for $909. To me, that is just absolutely crazy, crazy good deal. So if you're wanting to put out, if you're running this as a business, you know, you can cut you a big, 30 by 30 boards and, put it to cut 50 Christmas ornaments out at one time. So you're not having to constantly, baby the machine, swapping out materials. So if you are one of those type of people that like function over form, this is definitely the machine for you. So check it out if you're in the market. And, until next time, I hope everybody has a wonderful day.